Good morning, evening, wherever you are right now. Thanks for joining this interesting session uh, on the security domain. So we'll discuss about the Log4j debacle and how to protect against next-gen security threats. But even before we go to that, a little bit about myself, introduction. So I'm Sankalp, solutions architect here at Akamai. Um, been here around just about 5 years, and over the due course of time, I've worked with customers across all geos, probably around 300 to 400 customers. And in addition to that, I also work with our NAP partners worldwide to train and certify them to enable them. So that's a little bit about me. Um, so, what's on the agenda, right? So, let me talk a little bit on what I'm trying to do here. In a nutshell, what I want to do in this session is to showcase how security domain itself is evolving, right? And how do we adapt to it, right? And as a beautiful use case for that, I'm using the Log4j vulnerability. Of course, you might have heard about it or seen about it. It's probably the biggest, loophole, security loophole we saw in the recent years. So what I'll do is I'll take this as an example. Let's try and understand what exactly this attack was, what were the technicals of it, and we'll combine that with some insights from Akamai because we serve large amount of internet traffic. So we do have some insights to share. And finally, we'll finish it off with my top five recommendations up to any enterprise or company for the security itself. So, before I dive into the specific, let's look at a brief timeline of events concerning Log4j. And this is important because we are setting the context. So, what happened is on last week of November, a security researcher, independent researcher, found out a loophole in this Java utility and informed it to Apache. Apache, who has the server ecosystem and all that. But the actual mayhem started on 9th December when someone dropped this or disclosed this vulnerability on Twitter. Of course, it was deleted in a matter of few minutes, but nevertheless, it kickstarted a security nightmare for almost all companies worldwide. So much that the CISA, which is the Cyber Security and Infrastructure Security Agency Director, Jen Easterly, came out and issued an official guidance on this issue on 11 December. She even called it the worst she has seen in recent years or something like that. Anyway, this was given a proper code name, which is say 44228, and then started the game. There were three parties involved. On one side, there was Apache, who was constantly releasing patches to close this vulnerability, and then there were attackers who had already unleashed the nightmare, developing new ways to attack and evade. And then there were security companies like us who were trying to outsmart these bad actors by deploying new intel in real time, right? And if somebody asked me why was this important, it is because of the sheer usage of this utility, the Log4j utility, and we'll talk more on that. And not only that, the ease of exploiting it, right? It was something unprecedented. And if I had to quantify it or put a number to the fathom of the vulnerability, on 16 December, Akamai was seeing more than 2 million attempts per hour on this particular vulnerability. And ever since it was made public, that is. So, in any way, this was just sheer madness, right? I mean, you can call this the mega tsunami of this decade in terms of cybersecurity. It was that bad. And to be honest, this game still continues to this day. I mean, I still see reports of how companies are getting compromised, and that's why I made it a point to give out few recommendations to stay safe, right? But that's a brief timeline of events. Now, let's go on and see what the heck is this Log4j about, right? So, I'm going to keep this very layman and simple. I'm not going to too deep on the technical stuff or use technical jargons for that matter. For the benefit of larger audience, I'll keep this as simple as uh, possible. So what is Log4j, right? Log4j is a Java based logging utility. The main function of this utility is to log events, right? What events? Say you are running a code and whatever stuff that happens, say that I execute something or I call something or I block something or something like that, right? I made a connection to something. Now, all that gets logged in a report, right? That's what the job of this utility is. Now, do keep in mind that this utility is free and open sourced, right? That's one of the primary reasons that developers love this and also became a prime this became a prime target for the attackers. Now, what makes this so popular is the ability to do lookups. Now, what do I mean by lookups? For example, say I'm running a code and I want the timestamp to be included in the logs. So, what I do is I leverage something called as an expression or a variable expression, right? So, I would write something like this in this statement. I've written date colon something something. That's an expression. And I type it all systems good. Now, what would the log4j interpret that? It will look at the expression or the lookup expression, and it would interpret something like this, right? So it will put the name, which is 20th December 2021, all systems good, right? As simple as that. Now, date is one such example. The log4j itself supports a whole lot of such expressions, right? And the best part is you can tie expressions together, or in put it in technical terms, you can pipe them, right? Say, take this for an example. The lowercase current user is, and I've given an expression which is says lower environment user, right? So what I'm essentially telling here is I have tied two expressions. In one expression, I'm saying print the username, and in the second expression, I'm saying print it in lowercase. So when log4j finally reads it, right, it will be something like the lowercase current user is administrator. Administrator is the username which I've used to run the program or something, and it's in lowercase, right? Pretty cool, right? I mean, no wonders developers liked it because of how easy it is to use and the versatility it offers, right? Um, Now, what went wrong, right? Um, if it was only that, then probably this problem would not have happened. But the problem started with a mechanism called JNDI. Now, what is this JNDI? It's an acronym for Java Naming and Directory Interface. What it did was to enhance the capability of this lookup. So with log4j alone, we can do some sort of date, username, and polling and some kind of that. But with JNDI, you now had the power to do a lookup to external services. Say you can ask the JNDI to go and do a DNS query or do an LDAP query into some active directory, right? You tell JNDI, hey, go to LDAP active directory, fetch this user and print the username on the log, right? Something like that. And you can get the details and log it back, right? In simple words, JNDI was an interface through which you could get greater data on the logs. And the way to summon this interface or the genie, right, is via parameter say JNDI colon. And I've highlighted that there in the slide. So let's look an example. So say I write an argument saying that my current mail host is something with a prefix of JNDI. The JNDI would automatically be summoned because we are using that parameter, we're calling it. It would recognize this particular query. It would go look for a configuration option called mail host, and then it would replace the log line with the answer, right? Pretty simple, similar to before. But here we are sort of opening a porthole for the logs to gather a lot more data from external environments. What I mean by external environments, probably a DNS, LDAP, or classic stuff, right? Or within the Java environment itself, right? Now that seems pretty handy, right? That's useful. So where is the vulnerability, right? So what I'll do is I'll demonstrate two examples and on how this can be misused, and that gives you a sense of how this JNDI can be exploited. Say for the first example, I'm a bad guy, Sankalp is a bad guy, so I go and register a domain for myself, a bad domain, and I call it malware.example, right? So I do that, and I somehow sneak this expression to your company's origin, right? And there are so many ways to smuggle this expression. You can do it in your HTTP URL, or in a query string, or headers, or in the payload itself. You can embed it in a JSON and all stuff like that. But the point is, it's like an Aladdin's lamp. The moment this is read by a server having Java, it would summon the genie, right? In which is in our case JNDI, right? So um, here in this particular expression, I have sneaked that expression. It pretty much says, log my AWS secret key with malware.example.com, and then once you tie them both together, go do a DNS lookup for this framed name or that final name, right? So that's what I'm telling to the server. Say if my AWS key is sankalp hyphen key, then the framed answer would be sankalp hyphen key dot malware dot example, and then JNDI, which is completely clueless, would do a lookup for this hostname. And since I own this hostname, I would see the query and get the key, as simple as that, right? So now I have the key, and just tracing back, I know where it came from. So I pretty much have the key to enter your infrastructure, right? In a way, I have extracted or exfiltrated the data, right? So now let's look at one more example. Again, similar setup. I own malware.example, Sankal, bad guy. Now here, I would use a different expression. Not asking JNDI to do DNS lookup, but to send an LDAP command to sankalp.malware.example, right? So again, JNDI would recognize this particular URL as a LDAP query, and as so what it does is completely clueless as usual. It would send an LDAP query. Now, as soon as I get the query, I respond cleverly by saying that, hey, go to this path, you might find something there, right? So I say that, and again, JNDI, completely innocent, doesn't know it is being tricked, so it goes into the malicious URL. It is a server hosted by me, and unknowingly downloads a virus, right? Now, I know what you must be thinking. So the JNDI is the whole problem. Why don't we just block it, right? Why don't we just block the JNDI colon till the time, at least till the time we deploy patches, right? And must be easy, right? And this is where I want to take 2 minutes and share what we saw on the field that day, right? The days where this chaos was happening, we were all in a cyber battle, almost in the literal sense. I mean, we had our engineering folks, we had our support, we had our architects, all together working really hard to, thwart these attacks as they happen, right? So we did start off with blocking JNDI colon reference, but we knew at the back of our mind that this was not nearly enough, because bypassers were being invented and announced in real time, right? And we are constantly getting inputs about these from our manual logs, or even our observations, or our threat inters. So we are getting real time inputs, and we are deploying logic, and we are thwarting them. That's what happened that day, right? So take this as an example, which we actually picked from the one of those logs. If you can see, what the attacker has done is to not call the JNDI colon all at once. But instead, he's calling the J in a separate logic. But when the computer parses it, eventually it would give the expression JNDI colon and whatever LDAP, right? It will eventually tell JNDI, go look at the, go send an LDAP request for this particular URI. And again, JNDI would trigger the attack again, right? So this cat and mouse game went on for a long, long time. To be honest, it was really a proud moment for us because we were able to thwart the attacks for our customers, right? And mind you, this was not Akamai infrastructure that we were protecting. We actually don't have instances where we which uses this utility, but we were trying to stop, the bad guys attacking our customers. Now comes the question: how bad was it? Right, the important question. And I've already told what Akamai saw, which was around 2 million per hour in just a matter of few days after disclosure. But let me share a few excerpts to give you an idea of the damage which can be caused by such bad attacks. And I'll let that sink in. Right, so we have the Belgian Defense Ministry shutting parts of their network. We had governments being attacked, and in response to that, governments and trade commissions around the world coming out with a warning for companies to fix this immediately, right? Say, for example, Federal Trade Commission warned companies to not fall victim to this. And mind you, this is the same entity who penalized a large corporation recently with $700 million for falling victim to a similar attack. And this is not it. I mean, we had companies who were attacked, and I mean, to give you a personal example, uh, my sister's blogging site, which by the way never gets visitors, right? Probably 100 folks in 15 days. Even it saw that site saw a large volume of attacks. So that gives you a sense on how mind-boggling this attack was, right? So now comes the question: was this a one-off event? I would say no, and let me tell you why. We're all talking about the new normal with the pandemic, right? What we should understand is the new normal is not only with respect to the COVID virus, but it is true to the cyber virus as well, right? With COVID, what has happened is that we have moved more towards digital adoption, right? I'm showing you some stats to support it, and you can look at anywhere you want, any industry you want, dice it at your as per your will, but it's almost irrefutably saying that the world is moving towards a digital shift or a digital paradigm. And mind you, by the way, this is 2020 stats, late 2020, but you can extrapolate and imagine what it can be right now. It can only increase, right? So, coming back, what's essentially happened is that we have increased the battleground or the attack surface or even the attacking points. So, before pandemic, if there was 5 targets which the bad actor targeted, it's increased now, right? And not only that, what we are observing from last few years is that the attacks itself are getting smarter by the day, right? I mean, back in 2010, if you had told me about ransomware, I wouldn't be bothered too much. In fact, I hadn't even heard about it. But it's almost routine these days, right? Companies getting impacted by ransomware, and I'll probably tell you my own experience. Um, I was talking to a CEO founder of a startup company in January, and he mentioned that he actually started the company in 2012, but he had to, for some reason, he had to start it again, build it from scratch. And I asked him what happened, and he said he had a ransomware attack and lost all the data. So it took him like almost 9 years to build everything from scratch and relaunch it again. Right? I mean, look at it any way you want. The emotional price or the monetary price or the business price or the beating that a brand takes, right, if it falls victim to such an attack, it is very sad and it's dire, right? So, what is the solution? Right? Any guesses? Any guesses you can type in the chat? One word answer: zero trust. It is a philosophy which is rapidly picking up pace, which simply tells you don't trust anyone, authenticate, authorize, and examine everything. Right? That's what the zero trust philosophy is. And Akamai, being the leader in the space, has adopted this zero trust approach right from the beginning. I mean, if you ask me or any other IT guy for that matter, you can ask him, what is that one rule that I need to follow as a company? All right. And I'm sure everyone would agree that the secret is to catch them as fast as we can and as early as we can, right? And this is not only true to the IT world, by the way. Take COVID as an example. Why are we doing this insane testing and everything, right? To catch the variants early, right? That's the point of it, right? And that's exactly what Akamai started off with, the so called edge platform that we have. The sole purpose of this whole network is to do cool stuff, catch bad actors, optimize, right? All that fun at the edge itself, right? Before they even hit your cloud origins or whatever, right? That's exactly where, you know, uh, even before it reaches your cloud origin, we want to do that. I mean, do optimize, do, serve it there itself or catch the bad actors, right? So that's exactly what our cloud security products does as well. Even before um, the attacks reaches or to catch the attacks miles away from your origin, right? That's exactly what our cloud security products does. But when then we thought, is that enough to say that we are zero security? Right? Consider that as a mask. A mask is good, but is it enough to survive against COVID? Right? That's when we went ahead and built products which gave our customers what I would call as cyber immunity. Right? So you combine these with the cloud security products, and what you're looking at is a massive wall which any hacker couldn't possibly surpass. Now, coming to my top 5 security recommendations, right? Of course, the first tip is to catch these attacks as early as possible or as near to the attacker as possible. Don't even let it go near to your application origin, right? That way you don't even have to worry about attacks at your origin. All that war has been outsourced to Akamai, right? And that's why edge network is critical to internet. I mean, some folks think that the cloud is a substitute for edge, but it's not, right? But it's like, the like husband and wife, the cloud and the edge, the complementing each other, right? That's how I would like to think of it. And to fight this war, we have built products like WAP or KSD or botnet, right? Bots are a menace, right? You cannot always have a human factor to it. The bots will also come into the picture, so we tailor made it. And there are a couple more, but yeah, these are the prime ones. So, and even by the way, Gartner has recognized us for the work that we had done in the field of cloud security and DevOps. And if you ask me, what makes a security solution good? I'd simply say this: a good solution is the one which catches bad guys, right? Not the one which catches innocents, not the one who let goes of bad actors, but you know just catches the bad guys only, right? That's the question you should be asking when you're deciding which security product to, you know, purchase. I mean, the last thing you want is a cloud security regime which starts blocking all your genuine users, or, that might impact your revenue altogether, right? So, to balance this out, we need, what do we need? Or what does a cloud security company need? Right? We need stronger algorithms, stronger intel, and a strong sense of heuristics, right? And that's exactly what we have focused on in these products. If you have heard about our adaptive security engine, that's the latest launch that we did, you should definitely check out. It's all about that, what I'm telling right now, right? And as a proof to that, I'm just going to cite one stat only. Over 92% of our customers use our WAP in deny mode, which simply suggests the confidence that our clients have in our solution, right? You can put it in monitor, test, and then, keep take action. But we have 92% of our customers, over 92%, right, which have it in denial mode. That shows the strong sense of assurance or getting it right, by our products. Coming to the second tip, which is controlling access. So, what we've observed is the threat actors are now moving inside the org, right? Say, take the infamous 2020 Twitter hack, for example. What was found out that an employee credential for an internal tool got compromised, which led to some of the Twitter accounts getting tampered with, and there were some crypto posts and all that, right? So there's always this chance that even internal applications or employee assets or even employees themselves get compromised, right? And that's where we thought and built EAA, or enterprise application access, right? It does one thing, which is secure your applications against the folks who are accessing it. In the sense, those who should not be accessing this particular application shouldn't be so, right? Keep it hidden, right? And we do have this sophisticated authentication mechanisms which comes with it, MFA and all that. But here's my personal favorite. The personal favorite is the adaptiveness that comes with it, right? Take the Google Chrome 0-day vulnerability that was announced in first week of Feb, or the mid of Feb, right? So if you had EAA, with just one click, you can protect all your applications from folks who are using this compromised browser, and only allow access for those who are using the secured version, or 99 Chrome version 98.5 or whatever, right? In a sense, the response for a vulnerability has to be lightning fast, and the product that you choose should allow you to do that. That's my second tip, right? Coming to uh, employee assets, right? Or speaking of employee assets, it's almost a no brainer that with the work from home paradigm, it's almost axiomatic that we need to secure assets like laptops, mobile devices of employees, right? Because as a bad actor, all I need to do is target one of the employees' mobile device, and I can make it a way to enter the organization itself, right? So I can't stress this enough. This is very important, right? And that's why Akamai has this enterprise threat protector, or ETP. So what we have done with ETP is, we are not only offering an option to regulate the browsing activity of the employee. Say you're not allowed to browse certain malicious sites or something like that, and all that is there, but we have also added a two-layer security. One is at the DNS level, HTTPS level, right? So if there's some guy who thinks who can outsmart, he can download a virus from the New York Times website, which is a legitimate website, then he'll be caught at the HTTP layer level, right? It's kind of a dual protection that we have. And one of the beauty of this security is that it's not only the attacks that we are worried about, but it's the data that gets leaked as well, right? And I'm playing the video of what we're doing with that, which I posted in YouTube. Say you have an employee who has social security numbers, or bank details, or any sensitive data, and you don't want that to be leaked outside the company, right? I mean, that's important, right? And that's exactly what we have built in ETP, which is to detect and any such leakages like that and take remediation measures, right? And as you can see in that video I have on YouTube, um, I'm trying to send the bank details, but I'm unable to do so. I'm personally in love with this particular option, and that's why I had to post it on my social media as well. Oh, I'm trying to send the bank account number. Let's see, finger crossed if I am able to do that. This site has multi-factor authentication. Not not the traditional TOTP or SMS one, but just the challenges, right? As you can see, connection lost. I was unsuccessful. Now, um, coming to the fourth tip, and the taking from the previous slide, the Q. It is about the multi-factor authentication, and I'm sure most of you would have not even thought about this much, but um, there is a prevailing opinion that all we need to do is to secure the access is to put a multi-factor authentication for the login screen, and you are set. But that's a farce. Scientists and researchers across the world have repeatedly demonstrated that traditional MFAs can just as easily be hacked, um, like normal username and passwords. And I actually even saw a gentleman publishing a book titled "All MFAs Can Be Hacked." Right, and that's why we have standards on MFA as well, the MFA technology as well, right? So we recently launched our MFA product, which employs FIDO 2 fish proof standard, which is like the gold standard when it comes to security. So next time when you're thinking of deploying MFA, the one tip that I tell you you should question your provider is, what is the standard of this MFA solution, right? You can SMSs, TOTP can just be hacked, right? So you should be asking, what are the engineering algorithms or the standards which are used to build this product, or upon which the product works, right? And I have saved the best for the last, which is micro segmentation, the latest buzzword in cybersecurity. And if I have to explain this in one simple sentence, it simply says, don't have a massive single entity because that can bring you down, right? What you can do instead is have tinier entities within the larger structure to limit the damage, right? Something similar to the way massive container ships are built, which I'm showing, right? Um, with individual compartment in that, right? One dent or one chip here and there can be localized. The damage can still be localized. It won't bring the whole ship down, right? So our product, Guardicore, is doing exactly that in cyber security space. It's like a segmentation solution, but on steroids. It's not just segmentation. It does attack mitigation, the response time to attack, the real time visibility of data within an organization. I mean, you can see the end user versus origin traffic, but have you imagined the east and west traffic, as we call it, like between two different servers, right? You get the granular visibility, and that's simply amazing, right? Why is this application contacting this one? Why? We would want to know, right? That's how you prevent the spread of the disease, the cyber disease or a ransomware disease, right? It's just mind blowing how this product is built. So do check it out. I mean, if you want to know the gravity of this problem, I can simply quote, I have a couple of quotes there on screen as well. National Security Institute clearly says that, the average ransomware price or attacks have increased exponentially in the last 3 4 years, and I feel it will continue to do so, right? And that makes this not just an option, but an absolute, irrefutable grave need of the hour, right? And that those were my five recommendation. But now comes the question: is that all? Right? I have one thing. There's one last thing, the icing of the cake, if I may say, which is our massive edge army that we have, 300,000 servers, all packed with security and speed, right? All packaged into one perfect edge cloud, a one nifty solution, as I've always called it. That's it I had for the session today. You can also follow me on LinkedIn for interesting discussions around the security and internet as a whole. But I hope it was helpful, and it will help you in making the right decisions for your company or organization, or at least in increased your technical awareness on the cybersecurity. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put your questions in chat. I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. Uh, but yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening.